Welcome to another edition of Big Oo's Top 20 Countdown. This week we're counting down the top 20 Shaka Khan songs because of her 70th birthday today. And plus, we're talking to our guest Revolt. He's in the house. But you guys, let's get into this countdown. This countdown is really this is one of my very favorite songs. This is from her recent album Hello Happiness. Song is called Like Sugar. Let's get into it. Like Sugar by Shaka Khan on Big Oo's Top 20 Shaka Khan Countdown, baby. Yeah. Yeah, you guys, that was a number 19 song. That was her song with Rufus, her first number one. And that song was called Tell Me Something Good. We're talking to our guest, Revolt. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing good.
Yeah, man. Tell my listeners about yourself.
Well, first, I just want to say it's dope that you're playing Shaka Khan. I grew up watching like a lot of folks reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton, and I didn't know this until recently. Shaka Khan sung the intro to that show.
Yes, you do.
I was like, no wonder it's so damn good.
Yeah, she's a legend.
Yeah, for real. But my name's Revolt. I'm a hip hop artist, journalist, poet, spoken word poet, illustrator. I do a little bit of everything in the arts. I'm more recently exploring podcasting and some other stuff. And I'm a singer as well. And I'm based in San Francisco, holding it down over here on the West Coast and celebrating Black History Month. We got Brother Malcolm.
Yeah, because actually we're taping this after Black History Month. We're taping this in March.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, every month is Black History Month, you know.
You better believe it. Yeah, man. So that's cool. So what made you get into? We're gonna start off with your music. What made you get into music?
What made me get into music? Whew, that's a big question. I mean, when I was really young, I was forced to be in one of those like boys choir things in the churches and stuff. And that was, I mean, I liked singing, but I didn't like the controlling atmosphere of it. I certainly didn't like singing, these kind of these German hymns and stuff like that. Like, I mean, some of it was interesting, but like a lot of the classical music that's kind of passed down through the generations from yuppies, let's be honest, is not the greatest. It's not like, I grew up with gospel and jazz, which is, was really kind of my calling. I felt like when I learned about it, which was much later in life. Everything that I do is influenced by jazz, especially my singing. And in fact, when I got older, I spent time unlearning my operatic formal training and to make it more like jazz, which I think is by far the superior art form. And so that's been interesting. That's been an interesting thing. But that's singing. And then later in life came hip hop.
How did you graduate from singing to be a hip hop artist?
So that one was, my coming of age years, middle school, high school, you start to, for me, like when I was 11, 12, I didn't come from a musical family. So it wasn't until I was like 11, 12 that I was like interested in music at all, really. And, I'm listening to pop stuff on the radio. I grew up listening to Beyonce with Destiny's Child. Destiny's Child was off the hook. I was like, and so I was a big fan of stuff like that. We had, it's a different time. We had Lenny Kravitz, we had Usher, it was like that era, and I was listening to, like the late 90s, early 00s. And, the first hip hop song I ever memorized was Will Smith's Wild Wild West song.
Wow.
West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider, no, you don't want nada, none of this, six gun in this, brother running this, buffing no soldier, look, it's like I told you, any damsel that's in distress, be out of that dress when she meet Jim West, just like, dude, and I didn't know back then, but he had all these cameos in that video. He had Stevie Wonder on the keys, and who I would be later in life come to practically worship. He had Kool Moe Dee in that video.
Yes, he did. I remember that.
And Kool Moe Dee he's one of the folks that makes me want to give up the art of hip hop. Like he already crushed it so hard. Every time you hear him, you're just like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
And Wild Wild West was based off of his song. Will Smith was actually, it's kind of an homage to, of course, the Cool Mo D hit, which sampled Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I think it was from Songs in the Key of Life, right?
That song "I Wish" is the most popular song.
It's amazing. Yeah, just amazing. And so you start to see that lineage. But for me, I connected those dots way late in life. Like I said, I
Mm,
didn't come from a musical family. And so, yeah, when I was around 11, 12, I start listening to that stuff. And unfortunately, or maybe, depending on people's perspective, the hip hop that was making it to me, I grew up in the white suburbs. And so we had very filtered hip hop that would make it into the suburbs. We didn't have Queen Latifah. We didn't have KRS-One. We didn't have Rakim. We didn't have Public Enemy. None of that shit made it through the filtering system. Because hip hop, as we know now, is a dangerous tool for social change. And I mean dangerous in the very best way. And they don't want white kids listening to that and connecting the dots between, disenfranchisement and poverty and, the all the dots that were being connected, especially in the golden era in the 80s and 90s. So the stuff we got was mostly Pac, and then during that era, of course, the one that really they really pushed. I wouldn't say he made it through. They pushed it was Eminem.
yes.
And so when I was younger and that first time I heard that song Stan on the
Mhm.
radio, that was really uncommon. You did not have any hip hop on the radio, on the pop radio stations back then, on like the white radio stations.
Mm,
And they played Stan though, because it had that Dido, vocal on the chorus.
yes.
And I never heard a hip hop song that told a story before like that.
Okay.
I didn't have Mos Def or whatever, right? And I heard that and I was just like, and the way it blended the singing with it,
Hmm.
it really blew my mind. And so yeah, I got into Eminem. I'm embarrassed to say now, uh, during that time, because I'm actually a big critic of his now. But
Wow.
that was one of the things that pulled me in. And then through him, Dirty Dozen, Dr. Dre, Obi Trice, but those, I mean, they were new to me back then and I liked some of it. But looking back on it, I was just like, damn, I wish somebody showed me the good shit. And
Yeah.
it took me a while. It wasn't until my 20s that my early 20s is and my whole world blew apart when somebody told me about the greatest hip hop artist of all time. And I will fight people on this, Grandmaster Melly Mel.
Hmm.
And once I heard Melly Mel, that was it. That was it.
Wow. That is so cool. You guys want to talk more to our guest, Revolt? Let's get back in this countdown. The number 18 song comes from Shaka Khan. This song was actually off of her 2007 album Funk This, and this features the awesome Mary J. Blige. This song was called Disrespectful. Let's get into it. Disrespectful by Shaka Khan on the top 20 Shaka Khan songs. A big old top 20 countdown. Yeah, you guys, that was the number 17 song, Never Missed the Water, with Michelle Ndegeji Ocello. That was Shaka Khan. I think that was off of her greatest hits album back in 2000, the best of in 2000. I'm not 2000, like 1996. That's when the album came out. It's one of my favorites. And we're talking to our guest Revolt. Revolt, how many albums do you have out?
So that's the thing. I'm a little unique in this respect. Is for over 10 years now.
Mhm.
I spent 7 years on my first album. So
Wow.
I have one album that I'm pushing right now. I got about 4 albums worth of material that I do at shows and demos and stuff like that. But I really have just one album right now. And it's kind of my magnum opus that I'm really proud of.
Why did it take you so long for this album?
That was a choice. So I in the San Francisco, Oakland, like hip hop scene here,
Mhm.
homies were putting out albums every couple months or every couple years. Very common for homies of mine to have 3, 4 albums out.
Mhm.
And I heard it, I heard their albums and I remember always thinking, I mean, I know some amazingly talented people. I mean, people that you're just like would just smoke anything you heard on the radio. And I'd
Yeah.
listen to these albums though, and I'd be like, you know what? I would bump this every day if it just had 10% more polish. If they just got a little bit better mixing, If
Mhm.
somebody had, put in some scratching in there or some sound effects, some sound foley. And so
Mhm.
I got really tired of hearing my favorite artists. I honestly, like, it's cool when you're part of a music scene like that. You're like a fan and then you're also someone creating. And
Yeah.
I was such a fan of these people I work with, but I was so disappointed I feel like they made it 80% of the race and didn't cross the finish line. And so I
Mhm.
always told myself, if I'm going to make an album, one, it's not going to be an EP. A lot of folks are putting out, 6, 7 track albums. It's
Yeah.
going to be a full, 12 or 14 tracks. Two, I'm an illustrator, so I want to do visuals for it, right? I want to make it an artistic package. I'm not just doing download codes, right? I want the experience of an album.
Yeah.
And actually, it was designed to be on vinyl, and I've yet to make it to that goalpost because vinyl is so expensive to press. Um,
Mm.
but that was another part of it too. And at the end of the day, I wanted all the ingredients in the soup. I hired DJs to do cuts for me, homies of mine. I did a ton of sound foley and sound effect stuff. I had one of the best mixing engineers in San Francisco, and the mastering engineer I got was the very best mastering engineer in the whole Bay Area, one of the best in the country.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was kind of like saving money, making sure that the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted, all the ingredients were in there. And it was just like this total encapsulating labor of love. I mean, the hours I pulled in the studio were nuts. And I'm a perfectionist. And so hopefully the finished product shows that.
I gotta ask a question. Why did you choose the stage name of Revolt?
So the stage name Revolt comes from largely from an Albert Camus uh, essay. And Albert Camus was a 1950s philosopher, and he wrote an essay called The Rebel.
Mhm.
And in that essay, there's actually a quote on my website from that essay where he talks about how a person who's oppressed or enslaved, the first time they identify and understand themselves as a separate entity from the slave master, from the oppressor, from whoever's got the heel of the boot on their neck. The first time they recognize that they are something different, that they are something outside of that relationship, is when they stick up for themselves. And the minute they stick up for themselves and say, no, get your boot off my neck, that's the first time they identify themselves as an autonomous, free thinking, free person. It's like the first act of freedom. And so, in essence, that first act of freedom is also an act of antagonism. When you are oppressed, you can't help that because your oppressor doesn't want you to be free. And
Right.
so I realized that in my life, it's those acts of rebellion and revolt that actually define me, that actually make me who I am. And so that's where the name came from.
Wow, that is so cool. You guys want to talk more to our guest Revolt, but let's get back in this countdown. The number 16 song is also from her greatest hits album, which came out in 1996. This song is called Simply Deep. Let's get into it. Simply Deep by Shaka Khan on Big Ooh Top 20 Countdown. Shaka Khan Countdown. Yeah, you guys, that was the number 15 song, The Drama. That was from her album, Come to My House. I absolutely love that song. I believe that album didn't really get a lot of airplay because she was coming from she went to Prince's record company, and Prince's was like changed his name into a symbol. And I guess a lot of people didn't like him because of that. But that still was a good song, still one of my favorites. But it's time to get to the extra song, the first extra song of the week, which comes from Revolt. This song is called She's Homeless. I want you to give me a background of this song.
So this song it came from me I've been getting back into lifting and doing exercises and physical therapy lately. It feels really good. And when you start doing that, you look for music that matches that vibe, right? And for me, that surprisingly became 90s house and techno music, specifically from the UK. And while listening to those playlists, you realize there's a lot of racial unity in those songs and a lot of black artists that were really, really making that scene happen. People like Black Box,
I remember that, yeah.
The Waters. I'd never heard Crystal Waters before until very recently. And she made a song in the 90s, which is technically called Gypsy Woman. I don't think, that's kind of a racial slur. And I don't think she chose that name. And in fact, there's interviews where she actually talks about how she wanted to call it, she's homeless. And there's this great interview I read, and that's what the song's about. It's about a homeless woman. And Crystal
Yeah.
Waters, in the fashion of a true artist, said, I hope people are listening to the lyrics. I hope people are listening to the lyrics and not just the dope dance vibe.
Yeah.
And so that got me thinking, A, this song is mind-blowing, amazing. I can't stop listening to it. And B, like what better way to get people to listen to the lyrics than to write more lyrics about that experience and make it a hip hop song, right? Which highlights that. So it was a mesh of those of that desire and my new admiration for house music. And I never done it. I always love exploring new ideas and new types of music. And I was like, I don't hear a lot of house hip hop, so let's give it a shot.
Let's get into it. This is the first extra song of the week. She's Homeless by Revolt on Big Ooh Top 20 Countdown, baby. Yeah, I stole that from Soul Train. That's it. Yeah, you guys, that was an awesome song. She's Homeless by Revolt. I really, really did like that. You said you're from you're in San Francisco right now? Are you raised in San Francisco, or you just decided to move there?
So I've lived here for over a decade. As soon as I could get out of the suburbs, I did. But I was actually born and raised, if you want to call it that. I was a wild kid in the suburbs just south of the city. And so, yeah, that's where I'm from originally.
Oh, wow. The suburbs south of you. So you were born and raised in California?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. What made you said you just decided just to come there out of a whim?
Well, I actually traveled a lot as a kid. I had this weird, pseudo privilege. I didn't like traveling, but I had to, and I got to see a lot of the world. I got to see a lot of the country, and I never found any place that I liked more than San Francisco. I never found a place that was more open minded, that had like the good weather, right? That had the acceptance of diversity and weirdness, and like the LGBTQ community here is super dope. And it was just like, you know what? I'm kind of a weird, like I kind of go against the grain. I'm into like, I felt like I'm a unique person. And if I want to be accepted and not have to pretend to be something I'm not, this is the place to be. And the art is here, the theater's here. There's all this culture here, like so many different types of cultures. Is Japantown and Chinatown. There's the Filipino Community Center. There's like all this cool stuff here, and it just made sense. I never wanted to be anywhere else.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you said you're also an activist. How did that come about?
Oh man, that's the thing. I feel like it was inevitable, honestly, and it's a long, like it's hard to pinpoint a time that wasn't going to happen in my life. I had a lot of run-ins with authority growing up, and I knew from a very young age that the system wasn't working. It wasn't working for a lot of folks, but it actually wasn't working for me either, which I think is a surprising thing to some folks, because I am a straight hetero white male from the suburbs. You would think the system works for me, but it didn't at all. And so from a very young age, my dealings with police and other authorities, I learned very early on that shit was fucked up. Hopefully I can cuss. Whoops.
You can do whatever you want. So say whatever you want.
But yeah, I learned that stuff wasn't working, and I wanted to do something about it. So basically, when I was the first college I was at was a community college, and I started getting involved in some on-campus activism. That's where I first learned about the Black Panthers and all kinds of cool stuff. And from then on, I moved. That was one reason I wanted to move to this city as well, was to be more involved in activist orgs and doing more protesting. And it's a huge part of who I am.
Wow. Okay, you guys, let's get back in this countdown. We're going to talk more to our guest Revolt, but let's get back in this countdown. The number 14 song is by with Rufus featuring Chaka Khan. This song was called "Do You Love What You Feel." I love this song. "Do You Love What You Feel" by Rufus featuring Chaka Khan on Big Old Top 20 Chaka Khan Countdown, baby. Yeah, you guys, we did 3 in a row for you. We did "Do You Love What You Feel" by Rufus featuring Chaka Khan, "Called" by Chaka Khan. I think that was off of her second solo album, Naughty, and Number 12 was Every Little Thing. That was also from her Greatest Hits album, which came out in 1996. Now it's time to get into the comedy corner, which features recently he just lost his son, and oh my God, my heart goes out to him. He's one of the greatest comedians in my opinion. This is none other than Ricky Smiley. Let's play the comedy of Ricky Smiley, the stand-up on Big Old Top 20 Countdown, the comedy corner. Yeah, you guys, that was Ricky Smiley, and we're talking to our guest Revolt. Revolt, I gotta ask a question. Oh yeah, I'll save that question for later, but I'm gonna get this one. I noticed that you don't have social media pages, and I asked you that just like I asked Dee. What made you not want to get on social media, or did you have a social media page and just decided to disconnect it?
I did. I had a social media page quite a while ago, and like a lot of folks, I left that whole scene when I was watching what was going down in the 2016 election here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I saw all the bullshit, frankly, and I saw how these algorithms were making my friends fight with each other and were manipulating us, and I was just like, nope, nope, not having. And so yeah, I've seen, I could talk a lot about that topic. I wrote a song about Ed Snowden a while back, and the whistleblowers, the courageous whistleblowers that have told us what goes on. Carol Cadwalader is another really admirable person in that regard, and they've told us a lot of the poisons of using those sites and those technologies. And I know some people, they feel like they got to do it, and hey, that's your thing. But for me, as a personal choice, I don't drink anymore. I don't do drugs, and I don't use social media. And I call it surveillance media. And so that's how I feel about it.
Wow, that's cool that you got off of drugs, man. That is so awesome. I don't mean to get in your business, but how long you been sober?
Oh, I've been sober for a long time now, going on, gosh, 20 years or something, 15, 20 years.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I'm happy for you.
Oh, it looks like our connection might have dropped.
You broke up.
There you are.
Yeah. Why did you choose to name the album Revolution? By the way, I have a copy right here. I love this. I love this artwork. This is the copy of your album I have right here. It's a really, really good album. Why did you choose to name it Revolution?
Yeah. So the title is
Revolution.
Revolution. Yeah, you said it correctly. Some people don't. Uh, it's an amalgamation of two words: the revolution and illusions. It's the revolution of our illusions.
Mhm.
And as an activist, I realized that's what my art could do for the world. That's what I was doing for the world. Is
Mhm.
I was reaching people in the space of ideas, in the space of countering the illusions that we're fed every day through advertising and through all the nonsense that we see. You know what it is.
Yeah.
But basically, as a word artist and a musician, that's what I was doing. I was making a revolution of illusion, and so it just seemed like a fitting title.
Wow, that is tight. And you already know one of my favorite song off there is Write You a Love Song. We're gonna get into that a little bit later. But you guys, let's get back in this and you know what? When we come back, I want you to get a poem ready because I want you to spit something. I want you to
All
spit because
right,
you're also a poet.
it's
Um,
true.
let's get into the number 11 song is by Shaka Khan. This was off her album Come to My House. The song was called Smooth. No, it's not Smooth. I'm sorry, Spoon. Look, duh. I have the word right in front of me, but I mispronounced the word. The thing is, the song is called Spoon, and this was off of her album Come to My House. Let's get into it on Big Old Stop 20 Countdown. Yeah, you guys, that was a number 10 song, End of a Love Affair by the awesome Shaka Khan. Oh man, I think that was off of I forgot what album that was, but it was a really, really good song. It's really one of my favorites. It's time to get into the second extra song of the week, which also comes from Revolt. Me Too. And I noticed like during this intro, you have Oprah. Actually, no, that's not the one that you have Oprah on. But
It is.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Why did you choose to use that sample?
Uh,
Give me the story.
yeah. I mean, I was looking for good samples to use, but I have a newfound respect for Oprah, especially after watching her episode really going in on the Michael Jackson thing and talking with the two men who as boys were abused in the Finding Neverland documentary. And I realized that she has actually devoted a huge amount of her resources and her life to giving voice to victims of that type of violence and abuse. And mad props. I mean, just mad respect for her for doing that. And she's, I mean, you catch hell when you do that kind of thing. You know, it's a brave, courageous thing to do. And the samples I was listening to, I listened to her give this speech about the violence against Black women in the civil rights era, obviously still going on today.
Mhm.
And she told this story about this woman in the South who was attacked by 6 white men and at gunpoint and taken advantage of, and they never caught those men.
Mm,
And she was like, things are changing now.
mm.
And it was just a really, really powerful speech that she gave, and I was like, this is perfect.
Wow, that is so cool. And so let's get into the second extra song of the week, which comes from Revolt. This song is called Me Too on Big Old Top 20 Countdown. Extra song, second extra song. Yeah, you guys, I like that song. I got to listen to it before the thing. That's not on your album. Is that going to be coming on from a future album, or are you working on it?
Yeah. So these songs that you're hearing now are like lo-fi, home recordings that I'm gonna have on a future album when I get in, spend the big bucks and go to the studio and polish everything. If you get my album that's already out, you get the really expensive mastering and engineering. But these are tracks that are near and dear to my heart right now because I'm working on them right now. So I wanted to share them. And yeah, they're for an upcoming album. But these are the lo-fi version. There'll be nicer versions of them later.
Oh wow, that is so cool. And you said you're a poet. You said you live in San Francisco, the gayest city in the world.
Yep. Sure is. You can't deny that, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. And I noticed on your website you had like a poem that was dedicated to the shooting that just happened.
In Colorado Springs, only the brave. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. What even though you don't identify as a LGBT, what made you write something like that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't identify that way at all. But I have friends that do, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. See, that's the thing that the oppressors and the bigots are always trying to do. That's the thing about segregation, right? That's the thing why segregation was such a powerful tool, even in post-slavery times in America, is because if you can keep people divided and segregated, then you can create stereotypes, right? You can create fictions, fantasies, mythologies of why those people deserve to be treated that way. And the power of combating segregation and actually getting to know people in your community, no matter what their background is you learn to empathize, you learn to connect with them on a human level, because really we have more in common. We as humans, we have way more in common. We all want love, right? We all want happiness. We
Yeah.
all want to make money, right? We all like certain foods, right? We have so much more in common, but it's these like differences that, the media and governments are always trying to like pit against us, right? But we
Yeah.
have a lot more in common. And so, yeah, being in San Francisco, I mean, maybe if you don't go outside, I don't know, it's almost inevitable that you're going to make friends that are queer, right? That are gay or LGBTQ. And those are, you meet those people, you get to know their story, you get to appreciate how courageous they are and how much they've had to overcome. And
Yes.
that's really what that poem's about.
Well, on speaking of poems, I want you to spit just a poem for us real quick if you can.
Yeah,
What
sure. Yeah, actually, this is my newest piece, and it's for Black History Month, and it's about the person behind me.
Malcolm X. Okay.
And it goes like this: An assassin's bullet couldn't kill the man who didn't know his last name, who spoke truth plain, so much and so often that it enraged Paleface. An assassin's bullet placed in his jaw and face. They wanted to make sure he was dead on arrival. This man they feared beyond all sense for Jim Crow slavery survival. This preacher of justice and self-respect they tried to forget, but an assassin's bullet couldn't kill the man who spoke of 22 million black men and women in the shackles of the American nightmare, who posited the question, who taught you to hate yourself? Who called armed self-defense simply intelligence? Whose house was bombed and father murdered by Klansmen, who emerged from 7 years imprisonment as one of the world's greatest orators, speaking in jazz cadence, attacking ignorance, never complacent, iconic rimmed glasses and bold statements, dressed in suit and tie fashion, condemning police heinous brutality, didn't intend to be famous, unbridled passion for the African diaspora's humanity. An assassin's bullet couldn't kill the man on the cover of Alex Haley's pen, who haunts the pseudo-white supremacists again and again and again. Uncle Cracker Joe Tom Honky points his finger to the details of the assassin's bullet, shaking, lingers. See the entry wound, he said, the brutal photos, the screaming bystanders. Whitey relives and recreates the moment. He wanna believe it, but an assassin's bullet couldn't kill the man who traveled to Mecca and learned tolerance, loving father and husband who demanded equality, whose records and tapes and downloads continue to spread like the roots of a tree across all cultures and creeds. An assassin's bullet couldn't kill the man who was stronger than bullets, tougher than iron, more explosive than gunpowder, and cooler than steel. The white man's weapons don't work here. Him and his people continue to demand respect. You can't kill justice, and you can't kill Malcolm X.
I like that. That's really, really cool. I like that. That's a really cool poem. I like that. But you guys are going to talk more to our guest, Revolt. Let's get into the number 9 song, which comes from Rufus featuring Shaka Khan. It's one of their last hits, and it's really one of my favorites. This song was called Ain't Nobody. Ain't Nobody love me better. Hey, makes me happy. So yeah, let's get into it. The number 9 Shaka Khan song, Ain't Nobody, Rufus featuring Shaka Khan on Big Old Top 20 Countdown. Yeah, you guys, we did 3 in a row for you. We did Ain't Nobody with Rufus and Shaka Khan. Number 8 was What You Gonna Do For Me from the same album, What You Gonna Do For Me by Shaka Khan. I think that was their 3rd album. And number 7 was another one of my favorites, You Can Make the Story Right by Shaka Khan. That was from her 1992 album, The Woman I Am. Now it's time to get into the first independent song of the week, and that is from Revolt, and this song is called Her Right to Choose. Please tell me about this, please.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, this of course was inspired by the Supreme Quack's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, which was the legal precedent that protected a woman's right to her body and her autonomy. And this is an issue I was educated on when I first moved to San Francisco by some women friends of mine, and I was just as ignorant as the next person. I was like, why does this matter? And they really opened my eyes to this issue. And I think as men, we are affected by this issue as well, right? Yes. I could very easily have a couple Revolt Juniors running around You know what I mean? If I, if I and my partners didn't have access to contraceptives like we do in California,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I was like, it's time for me to speak on this issue and use, the voice that I have to have something to say in support.
Okay, cool. Let's get into it. The first independent song of the week, Revolts with Her Right to Choose on Big Old Top 20 Countdown, baby. Yeah, I like that song, Her Right to Choose. That's really, really cool. That's also gonna be an upcoming album. Um, you guys, I'm gonna give you guys a background. I actually met this brother like a month or two ago. He when D Allen had a feature on Put It in the Chat, and he was one of the poets that came and he did the poetry during that. And I was like, oh man, I like your style. I wanted to get your music. I want to like really get into you because I liked your poetry. And then even though what's the name Midnight kind of sneak dissed you, I said, I ain't gonna let that. That's my brother though. I ain't gonna let him do that. I ain't gonna let him, be dissed. And I was like, I really like the spirit. And so far we've been connecting by email. And he's a really cool person. I mean, wow, you really are cool. I'm not just blowing the smoke up your ass, and while you're here, people say, "Oh, you're cool," and then when you get the interview after you finish, I can't stand that motherfucker. He's a really cool person. He's an activist. He's a right. Oh, how did you get into poetry?
How did I get into poetry? Oh man, I got into poetry. I think probably the only way anyone can get into poetry, and that is falling in love.
Mm.
Young love will make a poet. Your hand, you can't stop it. You're trying to, you just the flowers and the da da da. I wrote so many poems in high school. I couldn't help it. The emotions just kind of come out of you. And so yeah, that's and still actually one of my as you know from what Write You a Love Song, one of my most powerful muses is falling in love. Absolutely. And that's what got my pen moving for sure.
Wow, that is so cool. But you guys are going to talk more to our guests. Let's get back in this countdown because I want to play a song after these two songs. This song is Sweet Things. Oh, I love this song by Shaka Khan, number 6. This is Rufus featuring Shaka Khan, one of their first hits. This song was called Sweet Thing. Let's get into it. Sweet Thing, number 6 on Big Top 20 Shaka Khan 70th birthday countdown, baby. Yeah, y'all, that was the number 5 song, Through the Fire. That was just freaking classic, man. That was just a freaking classic. Through the fire, to the limit, to the walls. Like, go ahead. And no, she filmed that in LA. She filmed it at the she filmed it at the LA Union Station, in the train station. She actually filmed that video, and it was like, oh my God, I love that. I was like, oh wow. So yeah. But you guys, usually we do an old school jam of the week this time, but since this is all old school, I decided to put another independent song in here by Revolt. My favorite song. I'm not gonna, we're not gonna go with the countdown without playing this song, brother. This is Write You a Love Song. I want you to tell me about this song.
Oh man, yeah, just head over heels, of course, in love with somebody. The two things that really made this song, a couple things I could say about this song. One is I was in my mid-20s when I wrote this song, and I was, for the first time in my life, I was deeply in love, but also at the same time aware at the impermanence of relationships. Can often, they come and go, right? Despite your best efforts sometimes. And I was like, this moment, I want to feel and I want to remember this moment, and I want to make this moment permanent. Because there is something permanent in this moment if I can really capture that feeling. And so that was really the impetus behind the track. Yeah, I tried to capture that beauty of that moment and that feeling of that love.
Let's get into it. Write You a Love Song, one of my favorites by Revolt on Big Old's Top 20 Countdown. Yeah, you guys, that was Revolt, Write You a Love Song. This goes into this is a perfect catalyst for this next question. Because I always ask, see, I set you up, man.
Uh-oh.
I set you because I knew a reason why I play that song right here. Because I always ask my guests this, what's going on with your love life? You have somebody special or you
yeah, no, I'm a single right now. I'm more single than I want to be, so hit me up if you're digging my music.
Wow, you're just like D Allen, you're miserably single?
Yeah, I mean, I go through stages where I actually really want to be single. I think there's a lot of personal growth that really does happen only when you're single. And I worry about people that have always jumped from relationship to relationship their whole life because
Yeah,
I find who I am a lot of times when you have time to confront that loneliness or whatever's going on inside. And yeah, I'm coming off though like a good period of that, and now kind of peeking my head up and seeing what's going on, and looking for something new and fresh.
that's awesome. You have a minute. Tell people what you want to know. 1 minute. If you go over 1 minute, I'm gonna cut you off. Let's get into it. Say something inspirational. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Oh man, I'm on the spot now. Geez, some inspirational.
It's something that whatever you want to say.
Man, I will say, I mean, the reason I selected these three songs today is the number one thing that Homeboy Sandman had an interview where he said, what we see in hip hop is not the censorship of bad things, not the censorship of cursing. He said what we see is the censorship of loving things, the
Mm,
censorship of kindness. And as the one lesson that's really been taught to me through being in the game, I guess you could say, is really the importance of elevating women and
mm,
women's rights. I think for too long, hip hop has been a male dominated craft,
yeah.
and I've seen too many women who wanted to freestyle. They want to jump into cipher, kind of get turned away or put down, and you know, um, there are some amazing women that have so much to teach us. I mean, you look at Queen Latifah, you look at Jean Grey, you look at Salt and Pepper. We need more women rocking it. And
Yeah.
uh, and more brothers that understand that and really take a step back and let women take a step up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I totally agree with that. But you guys, let's get back in this countdown. The number 4 song is another one of my favorites. Oh, this song is called I Want by Shaka Khan. This is from her The Woman I Am album. Let's get into it. Number 4, I Want by Shaka Khan on Big Old Stop 27th birthday Shaka Khan countdown. Yeah. Yeah, you guys, we did 3 in a row for you. Number 4 was I Want, Shaka Khan, I Want, from The Woman I Am. Number 3 was I'm Every Woman. That was, everybody knows that from her first solo hit. And number 2 was Love You All My Lifetime. That was actually the first single from her album, The Woman I Am. I absolutely love that song. Now it's time to get into the number 1 song. The number 1 song features your favorite rapper, Melly Mel. This song is
Oh,
called I Feel For You. Hey, I think I love you. Rock out with me, rock out with me. You ain't rock out. Come on. No, Bob, you have that. I feel for you. Come on now. Don't try to act all hard. Come on now. Let's get into it. The number 1 song, I Feel For You by Shaka Khan on Big O's Top 20 Shaka Khan 70th birthday countdown. Yeah, you guys, that was the number 1 song. Oh, I love that song. Shaka Khan, let me rock it, Shaka Khan. Actually, that was actually he was actually warming up the mic when he did that, and they decided just to keep it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they decided to keep it because it was actually a mistake. He was like, because they told him check your mic. He's like Shaka Khan, like rock Shaka Khan. Yeah, so and they decided to keep it. It became like a number 1 hit, Grammy Award winning hit. Revolt. How can people reach you?
The best way is you can always reach me through my website. I keep it old school. It's revoltrightnow.com. There's a contact link there. Hit me up if you want an album. And I'm always updating it, adding new tracks and stuff like that. I'm going to be doing more shows. Pandemic's made that kind of weird. But I'll be announcing stuff there. You can also join my email announcement list by hitting me up on my site there.
That's awesome. I want to say thank you to our guest, Revolt, and thank you to everyone who's been with us for the past. This is the 261st show. I thank God for that. And season 7, you guys have been with me for the past 6 years. The 7 seasons. Also thank you to the radio stations that carry us, which is the Block FM, Small Motion Radio, recently reunited with the people that we first started with, which was Kill Radio. And also thank you to Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, everybody who's Spreaker, and everybody who's like hearing this. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Our thought for the week is live life and love unconditionally. And the last song that we're going to play is a gospel. You know, we always end this with a gospel song. The gospel song is Shaka Khan. She did a song called Walk With Me. She did a remake of Walk With Me. So let's get into it. Walk With Me by Shaka Khan on Big Old Top 20 Countdown. May God bless you. May God keep you until we meet again. And that's it.